An old compass, lost for decades, suddenly resurfaces, and with it, a journey that will challenge a man's courage, wisdom, and heart. Follow Ethan as one unexpected discovery changes his path forever. Stay tuned to see how one small object can rewrite a life. Ethan had always felt like he was drifting through life without direction. At 28, stuck in a monotonous office job in the heart of the city, the vibrant colors of his dreams had long faded into a gray routine of deadlines and meaningless meetings. He often found himself staring out of his small apartment window, watching people rush by, wondering if any of them knew the secret to breaking free from their invisible cages. The thought of adventure, of truly discovering something beyond the city's concrete walls, sparked a dull but persistent flame inside him. One rainy evening, on his way home from work, Ethan's usual path was disrupted by a sudden downpour. He ducked into an alley to avoid the rain and noticed a faint glow coming from a small, forgotten shop. The sign above read, "Curiosities and Relics." Intrigued, as if pulled by an unseen force, he stepped inside. The shop was a time capsule, a chaotic yet enchanting maze of dusty books, ancient artifacts, and mysterious trinkets. The air smelled of old paper and cedarwood, stirring something nostalgic within him. As Ethan browsed through the shelves, his eyes caught an old wooden box tucked away in a dark corner. Inside lay a brass compass, its glass face scratched and worn with age. The needle didn't point north as expected. It seemed to quiver with a faint, almost magical pulse. The shopkeeper, an elderly man with a knowing smile, appeared beside him and said quietly, "That compass belonged to an explorer who changed the world. It's said to lead those who truly seek their path, but it's not for the faint-hearted." Ethan laughed softly, thinking it was a clever sales pitch. Yet something about the compass captivated him, a promise of purpose, of a journey waiting to unfold. On a whim, he bought it and left the shop, unaware that this small object would soon shift the course of his life forever. That night, Ethan lay awake, turning the compass over in his hands. He felt a mixture of skepticism and hope. Maybe it was just an antique, but maybe, just maybe, it was the sign he had been waiting for. The world outside was vast and unknown, and suddenly, for the first time in years, the idea of stepping into that unknown didn't seem so terrifying. The next morning, Ethan awoke with a strange sense of anticipation. He sat at his kitchen table, watching the compass needle twitch erratically. Unlike any compass he'd seen before, this one didn't settle on north. Instead, it spun wildly before locking onto a direction neither familiar nor logical, toward the dense forest on the city's outskirts. Confused but intrigued, Ethan felt a surge of excitement ripple through him, a feeling he hadn't experienced since childhood. The forest was a place he'd always passed by but never entered. It was rumored to be ancient, a patch of wilderness left untouched amid urban sprawl. Most people avoided it, weaving tales of eerie happenings and lost wanderers. But now, the compass seemed to beckon him there, urging him forward. Ethan's mind raced. What if the compass was more than a trinket? What if it was guiding him toward something important? Without fully understanding why, he decided to follow it. Packing a small backpack with essentials, he stepped outside and let the compass lead the way. As he approached the forest's edge, the city's noise faded, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds. The air felt different, fresh, alive, charged with possibility. Each step deeper into the trees felt like shedding layers of doubt and fear. The compass's needle remained steady, unwavering, as if it knew the path better than Ethan ever could. The trail twisted and turned, leading Ethan over roots and rocks, through shafts of sunlight that filtered through the canopy. He noticed strange symbols carved into tree trunks and stones, faint but deliberate. His heart pounded with a mix of wonder and nervousness. Was this really happening? Was he really chasing a forgotten mystery? By midday, Ethan found a quiet clearing and sat down, pulling out a water bottle and catching his breath. The compass still pointed forward, deeper into the forest's heart. For the first time, Ethan felt the thrill of an authentic adventure. The compass wasn't just a tool. It was a key opening the door to a world where anything seemed possible. As the sun began to dip behind the trees, Ethan realized this journey was about more than just following a needle. It was about reclaiming himself, rediscovering the spark he thought had died. With the old compass in hand and courage swelling inside, he vowed to see where this strange new path would lead. Ethan awoke the next morning beneath the thick canopy of ancient trees, the forest humming quietly around him. The air was crisp and fragrant, filled with the earthy scent of moss and pine. The compass lay on the ground beside him, its needle steady and unwavering, still pointing deeper into the forest's heart. It was as if the compass was not just an object, but a living guide, pulling him further away from the familiar and into the realm of mystery. With a renewed sense of purpose, Ethan rose and continued forward, feeling a strange mixture of excitement and reverence. Every step seemed to echo in the silence, the crunch of leaves beneath his boots breaking the stillness. He noticed details he'd missed before, the way light filtered through the branches in scattered patterns, the delicate flutter of a butterfly's wings, and the faint traces of ancient paths long forgotten by time. As the day wore on, Ethan found himself following the compass through winding trails, sometimes losing the narrow dirt path altogether, only to be gently nudged back on course by the steady pull of the needle. He came across remnants of a world that time had left behind, a circle of stones arranged like a forgotten altar, an old campfire site surrounded by charred logs, and weathered carvings etched into tree trunks, depicting symbols he didn't understand but felt drawn to decipher. The forest seemed alive with stories, whispering secrets to Ethan in the rustling leaves and distant bird calls. It was as if the compass was guiding him not merely through geography, but through layers of history and forgotten memories. He was no longer just a man lost in the woods. He was a seeker unraveling a hidden narrative woven into the very fabric of the land. Hours passed, and shadows grew long. The forest shifted around him. What had once felt inviting now held a subtle undercurrent of unease. Strange sounds echoed in the distance, the snap of twigs, an indistinct rustling that set his nerves on edge. But the compass remained calm, steady in its direction. Ethan realized that following this path meant embracing the unknown, trusting the compass even when his instincts urged caution. Settling near a small creek to rest, Ethan pulled out a notebook he had brought along. He jotted down the symbols and sketches of the carvings he'd seen, hoping to piece together their meaning later. As he wrote, he felt the weight of the journey pressing on him, not just physically but emotionally. This was more than an adventure. It was a challenge to face the uncertainty inside himself. Just as dusk began to settle, Ethan spotted a flicker of movement through the trees. A figure, an old woman, emerged slowly onto the path. Her presence was calm but intense, her eyes sharp with a knowledge that seemed to reach beyond this world. She wore simple, weathered clothes and carried a staff that looked as ancient as the forest itself. "Following the compass, are you?" she asked, her voice soft but firm. Ethan nodded, unsure if he should trust this mysterious stranger. She smiled gently. "Many have tried before you. Few have the courage to see it through. This compass, it leads those who seek their truth, but beware, it does not merely show the way. It asks for much in return." Ethan felt a chill, but also a spark of determination. "What kind of price?" The woman's eyes glimmered with wisdom and warning. "You will face your deepest fears, your darkest shadows. The path will not be easy, but it will change you forever." With that, she turned and disappeared back into the woods as silently as she had come, leaving Ethan alone with the setting sun and the compass that pulsed quietly in his hand. The encounter with the old woman lingered in Ethan's mind as night fell over the forest. Her words echoed like a riddle. The compass would ask for much, and the path would demand courage beyond what he imagined. Yet, beneath the apprehension, a fire of resolve burned brighter than ever. That night, beneath a blanket of stars, Ethan sat by a small fire he managed to kindle with dry twigs. The forest's nocturnal symphony, the calls of owls, the rustling of small creatures, was both comforting and unsettling. His thoughts churned, replaying the woman's warning. Was he ready to confront what lay ahead? Could he face fears he hadn't even fully understood? Despite the uncertainty, Ethan's heart pushed him forward. He realized that the compass wasn't just a physical guide. It was a catalyst, stirring something deep within him that had long been dormant. He had spent so long hiding from his doubts and regrets, running from the sense of purposelessness that gnawed at him. Now, Faced with a tangible symbol of change, he knew there was no turning back. The next morning, he packed his few belongings, extinguished the fire, and prepared to continue. The forest welcomed him with a gentle morning light, filtering through the leaves like a promise. The compass pointed steadily onward, guiding him beyond the familiar trails and into a part of the forest that seemed untouched by time. As he moved deeper, Ethan's surroundings grew stranger and more surreal. The trees became taller, their bark marked by intricate carvings and symbols, almost like an ancient language written by hands long gone. At times, he felt the air thicken, as if the forest itself was holding its breath, waiting for him to understand something vital. Then came the visions, fleeting images that flickered through his mind like broken scenes from a forgotten story. He saw a man dressed in weather-beaten clothes, his face lined with hardship, but eyes alight with passion. The man was the explorer who had once owned the compass. Ethan witnessed moments of triumph, discovering new lands, surviving harsh storms, but also moments of sorrow, a lost love, a mission left incomplete. The visions unsettled Ethan, but also bound him inextricably to the past. He felt as if the explorer's spirit was reaching out through time, asking Ethan to finish what he started. This connection deepened his resolve. The compass was no longer a mere object. It was a bridge between two souls, a legacy to be honored. But the journey was not without its dangers. As Ethan pressed on, shadows seemed to lengthen, and the forest's silence grew heavier. He realized that the path ahead would not just test his physical endurance, but demand that he confront the fears and doubts he had buried deep within himself. Taking a deep breath, Ethan tightened his grip on the compass and stepped forward, ready to face whatever awaited him in the depths of the wild. After several days of trekking deeper into the forest, Ethan's journey began to reveal new layers of mystery. The compass, steady and insistent, seemed to pulse in his hand like a heartbeat guiding him forward. His surroundings grew more surreal with each step. Massive trees with twisting roots that looked like ancient sculptures, moss-covered stones inscribed with symbols that glowed faintly in the dim light, and the persistent feeling that something was watching him from just beyond the shadows. One afternoon, while crossing a small stream, Ethan noticed something unusual lodged between two large rocks, a weathered leather satchel, partially buried under fallen leaves. Curious, he knelt and carefully extracted it. Inside was a crumbling parchment, brittle with age but surprisingly intact. Ethan's heart raced as he unrolled the fragile map, revealing a hand-drawn chart of the forest, marked with cryptic symbols and a trail leading to a place labeled only as the Heart. The map's intricate details matched many of the carvings and symbols Ethan had seen on trees and stones. It became clear that the compass was not merely pointing randomly. It was guiding him along a path deliberately charted centuries ago by the original explorer. The mystery deepened. What was this place called the Heart? And why had the explorer gone to such lengths to mark the way? Ethan traced the lines on the map with his finger, feeling a growing connection to the journey before him. The realization dawned that the compass and this map were pieces of a larger puzzle, designed to lead a worthy seeker to something extraordinary hidden deep within the forest. Was it treasure, knowledge, or something more profound? As dusk settled, Ethan set up camp by a large oak tree near the stream. He carefully tucked the map into his pack and examined the compass once again. The needle pointed steadily in the direction marked on the map, as if urging him onward. Despite exhaustion, a surge of determination coursed through him. He was following a trail left behind by a man who had risked everything for discovery. Ethan felt a powerful sense of purpose, something he had never truly experienced before. That night, beneath a canopy of stars, Ethan dreamed of the explorer, a solitary figure battling storms and loneliness, driven by a relentless desire to uncover the forest's secrets. The dream ended with the explorer handing Ethan the compass and whispering, "Finish what I began." Ethan awoke with a renewed sense of destiny. The journey was no longer just about escape or adventure. It was about legacy, about becoming part of a story far greater than himself. Whatever awaited at the Heart, he was ready to find it. The following morning, Ethan continued along the path indicated by the ancient map, the compass needle unwavering in its direction. The forest thickened around him, the canopy closing overhead to create a twilight world of shadows and filtered light. Every sound, the crunch of leaves beneath his feet, the distant call of a crow, the whisper of the wind, seemed amplified in the quiet, heightening his senses. As he moved deeper, Ethan noticed subtle changes. The air grew cooler and heavier, and the symbols carved into the trees became more intricate, almost alive with meaning. It felt as if the forest itself was speaking to him in a language just beyond his understanding. Sometimes he caught glimpses of movement from the corner of his eye, a flash of something dark slipping behind a tree, or a pair of glowing eyes watching him from the underbrush. Unease crept in, but Ethan pushed forward, driven by a mix of curiosity and determination. The compass seemed to glow faintly, its light a beacon in the gathering shadows. Yet with every step, he felt the weight of unseen eyes following him, an invisible presence that stirred his instincts and made his heart race. At one point, the path forked unexpectedly. Ethan paused, consulting the map, but the markings here were faded and confusing. The compass needle spun wildly before settling on one direction, a narrow, barely visible trail that wound steeply uphill into dense thickets. The choice was clear: trust the compass or lose the way entirely. Ethan's pulse quickened as he chose the compass's path. The climb was arduous. Thorns tore at his clothes, and branches scraped his skin. But with each step, the forest seemed to grow quieter, more expectant. The shadows lengthened, stretching like fingers reaching for him. Suddenly, from the darkness emerged a figure, cloaked, moving silently, blocking his path. Ethan froze, heart pounding in his chest. The figure's eyes gleamed in the dim light, calm but piercing. For a moment, neither moved. Then the figure spoke in a low voice. "The path you follow is not for the faint-hearted. Many have lost more than their way here." Ethan swallowed hard, but steadied himself. "I have to keep going. The compass brought me this far." The figure studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Then you must be ready to face what lies ahead. The forest tests those who seek its secrets, your courage, your will, your very soul." With that, the figure stepped aside and vanished silently into the shadows. Ethan's breath came in ragged gasps, adrenaline surging through him. The encounter left him shaken but more resolute. The forest was alive with dangers he hadn't imagined, yet he was more determined than ever to see the journey through. As he pressed onward, the compass seemed to pulse stronger, a guiding light in the encroaching darkness. Whatever waited at the heart, Ethan knew it would challenge everything he believed about himself and the world. The forest thickened around Ethan, shadows folding into every crevice as he pressed forward, the compass clutched tightly in his hand. The stranger's warning echoed in his mind, a haunting reminder that this path was no mere walk in the woods. It was a test, a crucible designed to challenge more than just his stamina. Ethan felt it in his bones. The forest was now not only a physical place, but a mirror reflecting his deepest fears. As night fell, the woods around him grew silent, unnervingly so. The usual chorus of creatures ceased, replaced by a pressing stillness that seemed to squeeze his chest. He camped beneath an ancient tree, its massive roots twisting like veins into the earth. Before drifting into sleep, he glanced at the compass, whose needle seemed to pulse faintly, glowing against the dark. That night, Ethan's dreams twisted into vivid visions that blurred the line between memory and fantasy. He found himself in a room filled with mirrors, each reflecting a different version of himself. In one, he was the scared boy who had once felt invisible, abandoned by his family's expectations. Another showed the man burdened by regrets, haunted by choices he wished he could undo. A third mirror reflected a figure consumed by doubt, too afraid to take any real risks. Each reflection whispered his insecurities, each voice a doubt he'd buried deep within. "You're not strong enough. You're too late. You don't deserve this journey." The voices swirled around him like a storm, threatening to drown him in their darkness. But then, in the center of the room, a single mirror remained unbroken. It reflected Ethan as he truly was, determined, resilient, capable of growth. As he reached out to touch the glass, the voices quieted, replaced by a deep, steady calm. The compass glowed in his hand, steadying his heart. He awoke with a start, sweat soaking his brow. The dream had been more than just a nightmare. It was a challenge, a test of his resolve. The forest was forcing him to confront his inner demons before allowing him to proceed. Ethan realized that the path forward was not only through tangled woods and ancient trails, but through the labyrinth of his own mind. With newfound clarity, he packed his belongings and rose with the dawn. The compass pointed unerringly ahead, a beacon guiding him out of the darkness. The forest, once threatening, now felt like a place of transformation, a place where he could shed the fears that had held him back for so long. Each step forward was a small victory, a declaration that he would no longer be defined by his doubts. The trials of the mind were far from over, but Ethan knew he had taken the first crucial step toward mastering them. As Ethan ventured further, the forest seemed to shift around him, its dense foliage parting to reveal an ancient grove unlike any he had encountered. Towering trees stood in a perfect circle, their trunks wide and gnarled, their branches entwined high above to form a natural cathedral of leaves. The air was thick with the scent of earth and sap, and a gentle wind stirred the canopy, creating a soft, whispering sound that echoed like voices carried on the breeze. Ethan stepped cautiously into the grove, the compass in his hand vibrating softly, its needle spinning briefly before settling to point toward the center. The whispers grew clearer, weaving through the rustling leaves like a language he almost understood but couldn't quite grasp. It felt as if the trees themselves were alive, guardians of a secret waiting to be revealed. In the heart of the circle, Ethan found a stone pedestal covered in moss and ancient carvings. On it rested a small, leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age but intact. He opened it carefully, revealing the handwritten entries of the explorer who had once owned the compass. The journal told a story of discovery and loss, of a man driven by curiosity and haunted by a tragedy that had forced him deep into the forest. The entries spoke of a place called the Heart, a sanctuary of wisdom and power hidden beneath the roots of the oldest tree in the grove. The explorer believed that reaching this place would bring clarity and healing, but he never recorded whether he had succeeded. As Ethan read, the whispers grew louder, filling the grove with a gentle hum that seemed to resonate in his very bones. It was as if the forest was urging him onward, inviting him to complete the journey the explorer had begun. He realized that the Heart was not just a physical location, but a metaphor for self-discovery and acceptance. The moment was profound. Standing there surrounded by the ancient trees, Ethan felt connected to something timeless and vast. The compass had led him here not just to uncover a secret, but to confront the parts of himself he had long avoided. With the journal tucked safely into his pack, Ethan looked up and saw a faint path winding out of the grove, bathed in soft morning light. The compass needle pointed firmly in that direction, steady and sure. Taking a deep breath, Ethan stepped forward, ready to face the final leg of his journey. The whispering trees faded behind him, but their message lingered in his heart. The path forward was as much about courage and trust as it was about discovery. Ethan's footsteps quickened as he followed the faint path winding out of the whispering grove. The air seemed charged with anticipation, the forest holding its breath as if aware that he was nearing something extraordinary. The compass needle, glowing softly in his palm, pointed steadily ahead. Yet a sudden unease settled in his stomach. He knew the journey was far from over. Emerging into a small clearing, Ethan's breath caught. Standing before him was a figure shrouded in a cloak of woven leaves and bark, almost blending seamlessly with the forest itself. The figure's eyes gleamed with ancient wisdom and a piercing intensity that seemed to look straight through Ethan's soul. "I am the guardian of the heart," the figure said, voice deep and resonant, echoing as if the trees themselves spoke through him. "To reach what you seek, you must prove your worth, not through strength of arms, but strength of spirit and truth." Ethan nodded, heart pounding. The guardian gestured toward 3 large stones arranged in a triangle. Each stone bore a symbol carved in the same ancient script as the compass and the map. "Choose wisely," the guardian warned. "Each stone holds a trial. Complete one to move closer. Fail, and the forest claims you." The first stone glowed with a soft blue light, symbolizing wisdom. The second pulsed with fiery red, symbolizing courage. The third shimmered green, representing compassion. Ethan hesitated, weighing his choices. Wisdom, courage, compassion, all vital, yet he knew he couldn't predict which trial awaited him. Trusting his instincts, he stepped toward the blue stone, the trial of wisdom. As he touched the stone, the world around him dissolved into a swirling mist. Ethan found himself in a vast library, endless shelves filled with glowing books that whispered secrets. A voice spoke, asking riddles that challenged his understanding of truth, perception, and belief. Each question forced him to look inward, questioning his own assumptions and fears. Time seemed to bend as Ethan pondered each puzzle, drawing on memories and insights from his life. The final riddle tested his ability to accept uncertainty, to embrace not knowing as part of the journey. With a steady breath, Ethan answered, and the mist lifted. The blue stone's glow intensified, and he heard the Guardian's approving voice. "You have shown wisdom beyond knowledge. The path opens." Ethan stepped back, feeling a surge of relief and confidence. The compass now pointed toward the red stone, signaling the next challenge, courage. Approaching the red stone, Ethan's heartbeat quickened. The fiery symbol burned bright against the stone's surface, as if alive with raw energy. He braced himself, knowing this trial would test the depths of his bravery. Touching the red stone, Ethan was instantly transported to a shadowy landscape, a towering cliff with a narrow ledge stretching along its face. Below was an abyss, swirling with mist and shadow. The wind howled fiercely, threatening to throw him off balance. Across the ledge lay a door carved from stone, its surface etched with mysterious runes. A voice echoed in his mind. "To pass, you must cross the ledge and open the door. Fear is your greatest enemy. Trust yourself." Ethan's first instinct was to step back, overwhelmed by the sheer drop and the roaring wind. But the compass's steady glow in his hand reminded him of everything he had overcome. Drawing on that inner strength, he took a deep breath and stepped onto the ledge. The path was treacherous, jagged rocks jutted out beneath him, the ledge narrow and crumbling. Every step was a battle against panic and doubt. The wind tugged at his clothes and threatened to throw him into the abyss below, but Ethan forced himself forward, eyes fixed on the distant door. Midway across, a sudden gust nearly unbalanced him. He stumbled, heart racing, but caught himself on the rough stone wall. A surge of determination pushed him onward. Reaching the door, Ethan placed his hand on its cold surface. The runes glowed faintly, then dissolved as the door slowly creaked open, revealing a warm light inside. Stepping through, Ethan found himself back in the clearing, the Guardian waiting with a solemn nod. "You have faced your fears and prevailed. Only one trial remains." Exhausted but resolute, Ethan glanced at the compass. It pointed toward the green stone, the trial of compassion. Though the hardest to measure, he knew this final test would reveal whether his heart was truly ready to embrace what lay at the heart. The green stone stood before Ethan, bathed in soft, shimmering light that seemed almost alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. The symbol carved into its surface radiated warmth and calm, a stark contrast to the harsh trials he had already faced. He hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of what this trial might ask of him. Not strength or wit, but the tenderness of his heart. As his fingers brushed the stone, the world shifted again. Ethan found himself in a small village, eerily silent and cloaked in shadows. The streets were empty, houses dark, but in the distance, he saw flickering lights and heard faint cries. Drawn toward the sound, he soon discovered the source, a group of villagers trapped in a narrow valley, surrounded by rising waters from a sudden flood. Panic was in their eyes. Families huddled together, children crying, and an elderly woman clutching a frail child desperately called for help. The path back was blocked by debris, and the floodwaters were steadily rising. Ethan realized this was not just a vision, but a test of his empathy and willingness to act for others, even when danger loomed. He quickly assessed the situation. With his own hands, he began helping clear rubble, guiding terrified villagers to higher ground and calming their fears. The effort was exhausting, both physically and emotionally, but Ethan felt something awaken inside him. A profound connection to these strangers, a selfless determination to protect and comfort. During the rescue, Ethan encountered a young boy stranded on a crumbling ledge. Without hesitation, He climbed precariously to reach the child, risking the unstable ground beneath them. As he pulled the boy to safety, he realized the trial demanded not just courage, but compassion, putting others' needs above his own fears. After hours that felt like days, the floodwaters began to recede. The villagers, though shaken, were safe. Ethan's heart swelled with quiet pride and relief. The vision dissolved, and he found himself back at the clearing, the green stone glowing softly in his palm. The guardian's voice echoed gently. "You have shown the truest strength of all, a compassionate heart. You are ready." Exhausted yet fulfilled, Ethan knew that he had passed all 3 trials. The compass now pointed to a place deeper within the forest, the final destination, the heart. Guided by the compass's steady glow, Ethan ventured deeper into the forest than ever before. The trees around him seemed to pulse with life, their shadows shifting in rhythm with his heartbeat. The air grew warmer, filled with the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth, a stark contrast to the foreboding woods he had traveled through. After a long climb up a moss-covered hill, the trees suddenly gave way to a breathtaking clearing. In the center stood a colossal tree unlike any Ethan had seen, its trunk wide and ancient, roots sprawling like veins across the ground, and its canopy stretching so high it seemed to touch the sky. At the base of the tree was a hollow, large enough for Ethan to step inside. The compass pulsed stronger in his hand, as if urging him forward. Inside the hollow, the air shimmered with a soft, golden light. The walls were lined with carvings telling stories of the forest's past, the explorer's journey, and the wisdom of those who came before. As Ethan stepped further in, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace and clarity wash over him. In the center of the hollow lay an ancient artifact, a small, crystal orb glowing with inner light. Ethan reached out and touched it, and instantly, visions flooded his mind. The explorer's triumphs and losses, the forest's secrets, and the interconnectedness of all life. It was a profound awakening, a revelation that the heart was not merely a place but the essence of understanding and harmony. Ethan understood now that his journey was never about treasure or escape, but about discovering his true self, his courage, wisdom, and compassion united. The compass, the map, the trials, all were guides to this transformation. As he emerged from the hollow, sunlight bathed the clearing, and the forest seemed to sing with renewed life. Ethan felt a deep gratitude for the journey, for the lessons, and for the chance to forge a new path forward. With the compass in hand and the heart awakened, Ethan began his walk back home, changed forever, ready to face whatever life had in store with a steady heart and unshakable spirit. The journey back through the forest felt different to Ethan. The towering trees, once ominous and unfamiliar, now seemed like old friends bidding him farewell. The compass still glowed faintly, as if acknowledging the transformation he had undergone. The lessons from the trials, wisdom, courage, and compassion echoed in his mind, woven into the very fabric of his being. With every step toward home, memories of his past struggles surfaced, but they no longer weighed him down. Instead, they reminded him of how far he had come. The fears that had once paralyzed him were replaced by a calm determination. The doubts that had clouded his mind were now clear thoughts of possibility and growth. As he moved through the forest's edge, Ethan noticed the world outside had changed too, the colors more vivid, the air richer with life. It was as if the forest's magic had spilled beyond its borders, touching everything it had touched. He paused at a small stream, the water sparkling in the sunlight. Looking at his reflection, he saw not just a traveler, but a man who had faced his inner darkness and emerged stronger. The compass, now still and silent, felt like an old friend finally at rest. The path home was no longer a mystery, but a promise. Ethan carried with him the knowledge that life's direction was not dictated by fate alone, but by the choices one made with heart and mind. He felt ready to rebuild bridges with those he had drifted from, to live with purpose and kindness, and to embrace the unknown with open arms. As the familiar outlines of his hometown appeared on the horizon, a wave of peace settled over him. The journey had changed everything, not just his path, but his very self. Returning home, Ethan was greeted with surprise and warmth. Friends and family who had once seen him as distant or lost now sensed the quiet strength radiating from him. Though he said little about the forest or the compass, his actions spoke volumes. Patience in his steps, kindness in his words, and an unwavering confidence that inspired those around him. He found himself drawn to the people he had once neglected, rebuilding relationships with honesty and care. The lessons of compassion became his guiding light, helping him mend old wounds and create new bonds. Ethan also began to share his story, not as a tale of magic or adventure, but as a metaphor for facing one's fears and embracing change. The compass became a symbol of hope for others, a reminder that no matter how lost one might feel, there is always a path forward. In the quiet moments, Ethan often took out the compass, now resting on his shelf. It no longer glowed, but its presence was a constant reminder of the journey that had shaped him. Looking ahead, Ethan knew life would still bring challenges, but he was no longer afraid. He had found his true north, a steady light within, guiding him through whatever storms may come. The old compass had changed his path forever, not by pointing the way, but by helping him find the courage to walk it. Ethan's journey with the old compass reminds us all that sometimes the most profound changes don't come from the places we explore, but from the courage we find within ourselves. It teaches us that wisdom, bravery, and compassion are the true guides in life's unpredictable paths. No matter how lost or uncertain we may feel, there is always a light inside waiting to lead us home. Thank you so much for joining Ethan on this unforgettable adventure. If this story inspired you, touched your heart, or reminded you of your own inner compass, please don't hesitate to show your support. If you enjoyed this tale, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that inspire and uplift. Your support means the world and helps us bring more journeys like Ethan's to life. Remember, every path leads somewhere, and sometimes, all it takes is a little faith in the journey to change your life forever. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep following your true north.